confusing, but regardless I can spit. Verses intricate and delicate, be careful with my hit my homies up in Harlem, so them I got flows on flows. Ain't never book a show, but my face is sell out shows. Get a tour, need more beats that I can't afford. Just to prove real niggas need to be put on more. Oh my god, this looks so beautiful. Let me take a picture.
All right. How's everybody going on? You just finished watching episode 7-8 of the Jordan doc. You of course came to the right place afterwards. A-League episode 105 up in here. What's going on, everybody?
Good, man. How y'all doing?
Trying to be as I say all the time, trying to be as every bit as good as yourself, Mr. Sports Illustrated Falcons. Whipping people up, whipping people's butts on these SI Falcons debates.
Oh yeah, having a blast.
Oh
Thanks
yeah,
to, all the good people that helped me do that.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. Like I've seen some of those. I seen the first one that you did. That was pretty nice. That was pretty informative and entertaining. What you did. I mean, you going places, Mr. Big Shots.
Appreciate it again.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is. How about you, Shot? How's M-I, as my family used to say, M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I, Mississippi treating you?
Man, Mississippi, man, I love it here, man. I'm starting to fall in love with the place. I think I went outside this week. Not sure if that was this week or last week, but went outside to go cover a signing, top basketball prospect here. So that was a little, but a couple days later, I still feel all right. So we're good.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All's well that ends well. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know it.
As always, all's well that definitely ends well. I was talking, me and Shah were talking before we started this episode, and it's actually one of those things where I myself was actually kind of busy because not only was the Jordan doc, airing tonight, but I was in a group chat as well with some friends and family in New York because they invited me to this online party for WWE Money in the Bank. So I was so it's interesting. I had my computer at the ready, so I was really I was watching both the WWE pay-per-view as well as the Jordan doc at the same time on my TV. So I pretty much came prepared. Hey, I'm adjusting to this quarantine life rather beautifully, if you ask me.
Honestly, it hadn't changed much for me. I mean, I'm a homebody anyway, so I've been going to the office every day, so it's still just like regular old work to me, and other than having games to cover. But they were like, "You can't come outside, you can't go to parties," and I was just like, "Thanks for the update."
Well, you know what? In all honesty and truth, like I know, everything. I know we miss sports and everything, but you kind of. I'm gonna be honest, Jeremy. You kind of needed a little bit of a break because it seemed like to me, like I said, like you was covering so many games, like in the Athens, Watkinsville area. Like I felt like it's one of those things. I felt like there was like 5 of you like spread out throughout Georgia, like because you really circumnavigate the state, just like you, Shah. You circumnavigate the state of Mississippi.
No, man. This is nothing like how it was in Alabama, man. I got it good over here. In Alabama, yeah, I'll be like, yeah, I agree with that. No, not over here. I got it good over here. I haven't made.
Man, that's good to hear, man. Like,
hey, Jeremy, come on now. Don't get yourself in. Come on.
It is what it is, man. Absolutely, it is what it is. But yeah, glad everybody is here. Glad everybody's doing good. Glad everybody's being safe, and definitely for sure. Also glad that everybody is here, of course, always. So yeah, episode 7 and 8 of the documentary. What was your? That was one of those. I feel like that the last two when we did our show last week. I definitely felt like, last two, like 5 and 6 really went, definitely in depth into a lot of things, like from Kobe to the gambling to the, to the stuff that happened in North Carolina. These two episodes that they aired tonight, 7 and 8, were definitely more on the emotional tip, particularly when they were talking about, just, his father and everything, losing his father. And, I feel like that because of the fact that I feel like that they really bookended it really well by mentioning what had happened with him, with his father, passing away. And then all of a sudden, fast forward to when he comes back in the 1995-1996 finals against Seattle. And he, he leads Chicago to another championship and wins the championship on Father's Day. Like I felt like that was one of those moments for me that really caught me, because last week I think we were really we were shedding some tears because of, in the beginning of episode 5, because of all the Kobe references. We were definitely shedding tears, and just, in an emotional, on an emotional tip this week because of, him, talking about his dad and everything. Like that was really something that I just, that really, that just really took me back and everything. And also, by the way, as an aside, even with that, just the end of episode 8 really also definitely had me like, oh shoot, like it's such a like oh my gosh, bring back the Seattle Supersonics. Like every single time I see, nothing against OKC, but every single time I see something with OKC, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like why does Seattle not have a team right now? But yeah, I like these 2 episodes, and I'm definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to what they have in store for episodes, the last 2 episodes, 9 and 10. Like I wonder what they got in store, because these next 2 episodes that they're going to show were actually the last 2, were actually the only 2 rather that weren't leaked prior to them showing episode 1 for about a month ago.
Yeah, for sure, man. Tonight was a tough night for sure. Just with like what you said, like, but to see him humanized, like you said at the end of episode 8, it's like when I forgot which Morris twin said it, but when Kobe died, a Morris twin said in a post-game interview, he said, Superman isn't supposed to die. And, like that's kind of the image I had when I saw Jordan holding the ball, still in full uniform with the championship hat on, sobbing on the floor. Like Superman isn't supposed to break down, Superman isn't supposed to be that vulnerable and show his emotions like that, or just leave it all out there on the floor like that. So I think that was just a very sobering moment. Also, I'm glad, we talked a big part last week about, were they going to address the conspiracies? And, I think it was, although like, I feel like if you believed in this conspiracies going into it, tonight didn't do much for you. But but it was still nice, the fact that they at least addressed it. Kind of the elephant in the room of, it was his, gambling debts that kind of put out this hit on his father. And then, the other one of, he was gambling so much that Stern secretly just, banned him from the league for a year and a half. So, I mean, I like the fact that they addressed both of those. And that was one part that I was really glad that they got David Stern in before he passed to do this documentary, so he could address it and say it himself. But also, like going back to what you said, Keem, like kind of just made me sad again, like at the end of episode 8, of like all the like lifelong questions and conspiracies and, things to address in depth that you can't really do during your career. The fact that we won't have that opportunity with Kobe kind of like broke me down again at the end of episode 8 as we were finishing tonight and, get into the end of this documentary.
Yeah. Definitely with both of you guys, as far as, really enjoying I really enjoyed how they humanized MJ. I mean, I had never really, 96, 95, all that was before, I was a sports fan. So, I hadn't seen that. So, just, this was the first time I'd ever been able to, what do you call it? Feel Jordan's pain, if that, because as you guys know, I was close to my father when he passed. So, I definitely know, and that he definitely didn't pass in that way. But, that was something that, seeing him, how he dealt with it was really cool to see that, there was something more than what he was showing, or what I would have expected him to be, just because we always see the hardened iron Michael Jordan that we all know. So I thought that was really cool that we got to see that. And then we also got to see it in, when he kind of breaks down at the end of the first episode tonight, where he's talking about, playing with passion and, pushing his teammates. I was talking to someone about this earlier this week that, people want all these, like they have this fantasy of what leaders are supposed to be. And Michael Jordan's one of those people who we build that template off of. And, I asked the question, well, how many people are actually like Michael Jordan as a person right now? And, based off what his teammates were saying throughout the episode, very few. Mm-hmm. But I think he made a really good point when he said that leadership comes with a price, and so does winning. And he paid it. I mean, he is seen as this guy that's been really hard on people. But then you could see that later in life, that seems to bother him more than you would have thought, and that he let on during his playing career. So, I thought that was cool that they touched on that.
It was that part was crazy to me, how he, during the doc, answering the questions about his father, he took a long pause, but he didn't cry. He didn't break. Mm-hmm. But he got emotional talking about wanting to win. And when you see, when Kobe passed, it was so much Mamba mentality. That end of that episode 7 motivated me. I wanted to get out of my bed, do 100 push-ups right there. Because that Joker, Jordan, man, when I see, man, I tell you, man, I feel it all the time. We talked about this a lot, the episode David came on. And, about David going viral and all this and blah, 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 and getting these accolades. I'm like, man, I promise you, bro, any kid that come up to you, I want to do, Sports Illustrated, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Beyond the W, Elite, how can I get in? Bro, I'm telling you, bro, you just got to do it. You just got to work. Put your head down, do it first. If you got a website, you've been doing your thing for consistently uploading every single week, doing articles every single week for 4 or 5 years, and you come up, how do you want? I could be like, all right, bro, well, let me see how we can work this out. If you don't have that consistency, that drive, that will, that passion, and most of these kids don't have it, you're not going to get there, bro. And I'm so glad to see that from Mike himself, to tell these kids, because Mike was different, bro. Kid, like Jeremy said, bro, people not built like that. People can't think like that. When they had you could see who really was kind of like the more softer guys. You notice, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but the taller the guys were, the centers and all that, the 2 old centers that played from 93 to 99, 93 to 98 in Chicago, those were the guys, oh yeah, Jordan, yeah, he was a jerk. He was harsh. He was, because the taller you are, right, the easier it kind of is for you to get into the league, right? The easier it is to find you a spot on the NBA roster. So the guys that are kind of like Jordan, lower, all those dudes, man, to get to that level in the NBA, B.J. Armstrong was one of the
lot of guys like you when you're that size.
Exactly. You got to be a dog. So it's like, to see the dog, to see him talk about the dog with the passion, to break it down. That's the first time we heard this man say break. During the whole interview, during the whole doc, they talking about his gambling, that mark. They talk about people coming for his character because he ain't back the Democrats candidate, and his father passing. The one time he cried was talking about winning. And he said, if you can't win, break. Come on, man. These kids don't want to be great, man. And then, people talk about this generation so much, the millennials, that Gen Z, they don't want to work for it. They lazy. Well, shoot, you see the man right there. If that ain't motivate you to get up, matter of fact, you either have it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? From the jump. But if that didn't motivate you, nothing will. There's no hope for you. You might as well go ahead and be happy with living a content life with an average family and live an average lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with that. But Jordan wanted more. And if you want more, you gotta push to the levels that Jordan did. Jordan was an absolute lunatic, man. To make up that whole thing about the BJ Armstrong said, or what was his name, Ladner, whatever his name was, from Washington.
The
Said,
Bullets.
good game, Mike. And he didn't even say that. And George Karl walked past him at the restaurant, and they in the whole NBA final series, and he ain't say what's up because they in the battle. And she said, okay, all right, bet. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to give him 60. To have that lunatic mindset, bro, that's another level that needs to be tapped to reach greatness. You know what I'm saying? Everybody say they want greatness. Everybody wants a glory. At the end of the day, people don't really want it. And that motivated me to go harder. I don't know about y'all, but I just wanted to say my piece about that.
I don't know. For me, it's always been a thing where I've always felt that way, honestly. So, you know, hearing it is just confirmation. Like, I don't know, you have to want stuff as much as you want to breathe. Like, people will say, hey, you know, you want to, you know, they'll give you an excuse of why they can't or why they won't or why they don't want to. And it's just like those words don't even exist to Michael Jordan. So, I mean, Tom Brady's the same way. Like, people, if you just look at these people as normal people, they sound crazy, right? Like, Tom Brady has a trainer that goes with him everywhere, a guy that, you know, feeds him outside of the trainer that the team has. Like, that's insanity to do that. But, you know, they've fully bought into this mindset that you have to invest in yourself so that you reach the greatness that you want. And, you know, a lot of people don't seem to understand that. And, obviously, you know, I think all three of us feel that way just because, you know, we do what we do because we have to. So.
Right. Exactly. You know, it really is. It really does come down so much to how bad you want it or how bad you don't, because, you know, like you said, I feel like that it's one of those issues where, you know, you said it yourself, Shad. I mean, so many people, they may not necessarily it's like they don't necessarily want to, I won't say they won't want to be great. I feel like they want the accolades and, you know, sort of the perks of that greatness, but they don't understand that sometimes being great or becoming great or reaching that plateau, it comes with a price. And as we saw in earlier episodes, in the case of Michael Jordan, it came at a huge price. Like, it came at a price where, you know, he basically got, you know, celebrity treatment, where he couldn't even go, you know, walk in the streets of Chicago without media following him wherever he went. Like, he couldn't even leave any hotel room without, you know, a horde of fans and this, you know, scrum of media following him, you know, wherever he went. Like, he couldn't go any place. So that greatness, it really comes at a price. But at the same time, it's like, it's really one of those issues where you have to evaluate and you have to understand exactly, like, you know, just how badly that it is that you want it. And that's something that I think that, is possibly something that is common in a lot of people, whether that be, you know, any age. That could be something where they may very well want those accolades, but they don't necessarily want to put in the work. And it's really the work that gets you exactly where it is. I mean, you know, like you said it yourself, Jeremy. I mean, Tom Brady is the exact same way. He's willing to put in that work. And I know that, you know, a lot of people around the country who are sports fans, it's like, you know, have this attitude where it's like F Tom Brady. But you know what, in the same token where they say F Tom Brady, the same thing is like, you know, they respect him because of that work that he's put in over the years to be great. Because we understand that, you know, greatness isn't just something that just is, you know, it's not something that grows on trees in Piedmont Park. I mean, it's one of those things where it takes it takes a lot of hours. I mean, it takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of years. And that's not just something that can be said in just sports, but any walk of life.
Y'all
Yeah.
remember when Belichick, I think the Patriots just won a Super Bowl. This might have been maybe the Tuesday after or something like that. This might have been a post-game conference. They asked Belichick, what's next? And he said, well, we're going to celebrate, be happy, get back to it. So he said, get
Right.
back to the office and, we're already
Cincinnati.
behind for next season. So we got to start scouting for the draft. And
Right.
that mentality,
On
bro, that's how you become great.
Right.
And Akeem, you hit on a good point. Is that I've always been growing. Early in Tom Brady's career, I wasn't a Patriots fan. I didn't like the Patriots. Just over the last couple of years, like I've grown to, I'm still not a Patriots fan or a Tom Brady fan, but just seeing what this guy does so that he's successful, and then seeing him go out and put it on the field, do things we've never seen a quarterback do. Like, you just can't do anything but tip your cap and say that man, he's earning what he's worked for. So, yeah, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. And if anything, instead of hating that person, you should take that as an example.
I feel the same way about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's another one. I mean, in this debate about LeBron and MJ, I think this is why Jordan will always be the GOAT to me. I mean, I think LeBron's a better basketball player. If you just build a basketball player from ground up, yeah, he's more talented. But, I mean, Michael Jordan is not the greatest basketball player I've ever seen. So, but it's just that, that's why he in the fourth quarter, you don't bet against him, because he's already done what's about to happen. And he ain't scared of nobody. Like, there's nothing you can do to him that he hadn't done to himself mentally. So that's where other greats just were really good in any sport. That's where they fall behind Tom Brady. That's where they fall behind Michael Jordan. That's where they fall behind Wayne Gretzky, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, Richard Petty, Tiger Woods. It's all mental. I mean, there are better athletes than each of those people I just named. There are better players, if you want to be honest, than those athletes. But their mental toughness and that thing that they have, that work that they put in off the field before they get to the competition, that gives them an advantage over their opponents before they even step on the field or court, is why they separate themselves from me. So,
well,
exactly.
The world hasn't seen the greatest performer ever. The world hasn't seen the greatest basketball player ever. The world has, what I'm saying, et cetera, et cetera. Because exactly what you said, Jeremy. We know someone, we know someone who should be in the league right now. And Joker ain't been nowhere near sniffing the league. And it has nothing to do with talent. So that stuff is serious, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you think about it, okay, all these athletes today in the NBA, let's take the NBA, for example, they've had the opportunity to sit back and watch film on Michael Jordan. So stuff that he was doing that was innovative at the time is just part of some of these guys' regular games. I hear the comparison that if Michael Jordan was in the NBA today, he would be the equivalent of DeMar DeRozan. I mean, that may have some merit to it, but I mean, it's also that Michael Jordan would have had the same advantage that these guys have, having seen himself in the past and learning from what he did. So who's to say he wouldn't be something completely different today also?
Yeah, Jordan was low-key built kind of like LeBron back then, before all these, advancements and stuff. So like you said, yeah, that evolution, it works both ways.
Mm-hmm. That was also a good point that you made about, about how, the whole thing about who's the GOAT debate, it's an ongoing debate and seemingly will never end. But I think that one of the things that separates those, that upper echelon, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, the thing that separates and separated the greats, like you mentioned earlier, like, the Richard Pettys and the Dale Earnhardts and the Jimmy Johnsons of NASCAR, or in tennis, the Williams sisters, or in swimming in the Olympics, like the Michael Phelpses of the world. Like, I think that it's one of those issues I look at it like, yeah, her too, exactly. Your girl. I think that one of the things that, that sort of separates them is those intangibles. Like, I think that, anybody, there are a lot of, players out there at any level that have talent. We've covered, we at some point in all of our careers have covered high school sports, high school football, high school baseball, high school basketball, high school softball, you name it, at any sport. And we've seen hella players that got a lot of talent. But I think that what separates those that, that's what separates those that have that greatness gene, like the Brock Vandergriffs and the Wendell Moores, what separates them is the fact that, those are the players that have intangibles. I ain't saying that, those are going to be one of those things where they end up becoming like Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or LeBron James. But you can see at an early level, like, like it's one of those things where when they go through even their high school development, it's like, watch out for this dude, or watch out for this person, like, because they got the intangibles. And I think that, when you talk about athletes at the professional level, that's one of the things that made Michael Jordan so great. It wasn't just the fact that he had talent. He had the intangibles and he wanted to win. He hated to lose too. On top of everything else, he hated to lose. And that is something that is a constant of anybody who's great, anybody who is in any sports Hall of Fame. They hated to lose. They absolutely hated to lose.
I think you said it, right. You said it perfectly, Akeem. And, that's why I struggle when we celebrate people who are, not hungry for championships. It rubs me the wrong way when I see, a team lose and don't win a championship that they should have been contending for. And then you see their players in commercials all off season. That's what bothers me about the 76ers, is because they should be a team that is contending. And yet every summer, every off season, I see Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid taking celebrity tours like they won the world. Two of the most gifted players I've ever seen coming into the pros. And they're just, like nobody expects them to win a championship. That bothers me. And it's like, if those guys had MJ's or Kobe's drive, like what would they be right now? I know they're young still, but Embiid only has a certain amount of time he's gonna be able to cash in on this talent, because he's a big man. So I don't know. Seeing that and seeing James Harden, who is probably one of the best scorers to ever play in the NBA, if we just being real. But he don't have no hardware to go along with all that other than MVPs that don't mean anything. And I'm not saying that he's okay with it. It's just he hadn't done anything to facilitate that not being that way. There hasn't been an adjustment to his game so that other players could come in and fit with him. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And his brand is still his brand. And winning just isn't important.
And who else is also a brand too? That was a great point. Who else is also, when you was, saying what you was just saying, who that automatically brought me back to Carmelo Anthony. Because I remember about 4 years ago when we was doing our first episodes around the time of the Rio 2016 Olympics, and we slick sounded like we belonged on NPR. I remember one time, one of the things that we was talking about Carmelo Anthony, and it was around the time of the Olympics. And I remember one of the things that he was getting a lot of flack in the media for saying, he said something to the extent of, oh, if I retire or whatever, I'm just paraphrasing right now, but I remember he said something like, oh, if I retire and, and retire without a championship, like he's okay with that. And I thought that one of the reasons as to why he said it was because I felt like it was very opportunistic for him to say that, because it was one of those things where he's probably thinking, okay, I got several Olympic gold medals. So, and is considered like an all-time great international player, but at the same time, that may be okay for him. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you can be a great international player all you want, but I feel like internationally, even in other countries, like the measuring stick of all time greatness is what you did in the NBA. Like Michael Jordan did stuff in the NBA. Kobe did things in the NBA. LeBron did things in the NBA. So when you said what you just said, that automatically made me think Carmelo Anthony, especially considering that Melo came in the same draft class as LeBron and D Wade, both of whom won championships. So that just made me think like, okay, that may be okay for him, but it seems like to me, like instead of, he just wanted to be, I guess, he just wanted to be like maybe not necessarily an all-time great player, but still probably somebody who's going to earn votes, for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, man, it made me think of LeBron, honestly. I don't know, man. It's just different because like when I see the closest thing that I see of Jordan's lowlights to LeBron's lowlights in the postseason and all that, it was the season, Jordan came back off of rust, not playing a year and a half, coming in the middle of the season, second half of the season in '95. So I mean, I feel like LeBron gets all the passes in the world, and it was never a rings don't mean everything. I never heard that argument until LeBron came along, until LeBron got into the all-time great discussion. So, I think like Jeremy said, like there's no denying LeBron's like actual talent. It's kind of like a Drake thing, right? So, like when you talk about hip hop greats, like no one's denying like Drake's an amazing talent, right? I think that's the reason why I'm so frustrated with Drake when he keeps putting out the same 4 songs that he has since 2016. And from 2013 to 2016, it was a different set of 4 songs. And, when the dude can rap with anybody in the rap game, and it's just like Drake could be one of the all-time greats. Like he's going to be in the discussion just because he's had hits for so long. He's been on top longer than probably anybody in the history of hip hop has, because Wayne was like what, 98 maybe, 98 to 2008, maybe if you want to say 2011 just to be courteous.
He peaked in 08.
Yeah. 98 to 2011, that's 13 years. Drake he's way better than where Wayne was at this point of his career. So
he came out.
Drake came out with 09, 08.
Yeah. 09. I'll say 09. He was known in 08, but I would say like 09 probably is when, he really started to pick it up.
And that's already 11 years, and he's still in the middle of his prime.
Yeah, he's not even close to done yet. So it's just like,
yeah,
Drake is going to be in that discussion just because how long he's been in it. But it's just a difference because it's like you have the talent and you have all the tools to be great, to go after greatness. And I'm not saying that LeBron hasn't, you know what I'm saying? Because obviously he has. Every single year, what people ignore, I think since about 2009, remember the offseason, the trade deadline when Cleveland traded for everybody? They had Wally Zerbiak, former All-Star, Ben Wallace, former All-Star. They traded for Delonte West, I think. Who else did they have? They had a couple other guys. Joe Smith, former number 1.
Was that the year where they got Antoine Jameson?
Yeah, Antoine Jameson, exactly. You remember when they were taking all them pictures. So, I mean, this whole LeBron constructed team, he brought Shaq on board the next year. He's been doing this entire career up to now where, he brought in, I want Rondo, I want AD, I want, what I'm saying? I want Dwight, all these guys. So it's just like, LeBron has always done this, trying to construct this team and trying to get the the tools have always been there. And that 07 team, people say it's the worst team to ever make the finals. Boobie Gibson was playing out of his mind. I won't know LeBron. Shannon Brown was a decent player. Larry Hughes was darn near an all-star in 07, right? Ilgauskas was an all-star in 07. You know what I'm saying? So he had 2 all-stars, and then Boobie Gibson, who was playing out of his mind at that time.
Those players weren't as bad as their rap gets them. They were not Pippen and Rodman and Kerr and Kukoc. Like those guys were really good players. But to say that LeBron's supporting cast hasn't been great, I mean, to say that those guys were just awful it's not accurate. I mean, like Larry Hughes was the second best player on Washington when they had him and Gilbert Arenas for a while. And
James.
Yeah, people forget how good that those teams were with the Wizards. That was some of the most fun basketball I'd seen when that team was really good. So, no, I'm with you on that. And and this is coming from a guy who, has recently kind of gone towards defending LeBron a little more than I did early in his career. So,
It's interesting that another one of the things that I know that they mentioned, and that they were going to go in depth with these 2 episodes, and it kind of paralleled with the whole MJ LeBron thing, is they talked about those years that that Jordan was playing baseball, and those 2 years where he was away from the NBA, but there was always speculation like, oh, was he going to come back? Was he going to return? Was he going to return? And I think it was, the more it went along, it became one of those things where it became more and more and more obvious that Jordan's going to make a comeback. I kind of wonder if when LeBron went to Miami, I kind of wonder if the years that LeBron spent in Miami were similar to the years that Jordan spent playing baseball. Because I think that to a certain extent, LeBron, because we all remember the story of, why LeBron left Cleveland. He left Cleveland because he didn't perceive, Dan Gilbert as building enough of a supporting cast around him in Cleveland to win him a championship. Then he went down to Miami, said the not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 deal at that party in South Florida, and teamed him up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and they became the most basically became the New York Yankees of the NBA. Won a couple of championships, one of them thanks to a heartbreaking Ray Allen 3-point shot. Shout out San Antonio, and that's how he got his first 2 championships. But I kind of wonder, like, because of the fact that there was always a yearning for Jordan to return to the NBA and specifically to return to Chicago, I kind of wonder if there was that parallel, because I think we all knew, later on as he was winning championships, even though he was winning championships in Miami, there was always a yearning for him to want to return back to Cleveland so he could win a championship in Cleveland. And of course, mission accomplished for LeBron. He won a championship in Cleveland. So I wonder if there's somewhat, a parallel, and who knows, maybe in a future, when they make the future documentary on LeBron sometime after he retires, I kind of wonder if maybe he'll go into that, because I do believe that there may have been some parallels to those years that he spent in Miami, because he won championships in Miami, and he did it to enhance his global brand, because let's be honest, it's much easier to enhance your global brand in an international city like Miami than it is to enhance your global brand in a place like Cleveland. No disrespect to Cleveland, but I do believe that those years that LeBron spent with the Heat just seemed kind of out of place, because he wanted to win a championship in Cleveland so badly. So I wonder if there's sort of a parallel between when he was in when LeBron was in Miami and and MJ was playing baseball.
I would say no, but I see what you're saying. I would almost reverse it. Say the early years he spent in Cleveland were the years because it. I don't think LeBron really understood how to win his first couple of years in Cleveland, which you wouldn't expect a young player like that to do it, to do that young. And it seemed like he tried to put the entire world on his shoulders. I never felt like in Miami. I felt like if anything, he came out of that. If he'd been what he was in Miami his entire career, we're having a completely different conversation. Because I feel like not only did he mature as a player, he started to understand to play the game in a winning manner. It wasn't just about him scoring as many points as he needed to. And that's what the difference was when he went to Cleveland the second time. Is, he was more of a teammate than, just the best player on the team. He was more of a leader than just the best player on the team. So that's where, when people say that first Cleveland team that went to the finals wasn't a good team, well, they weren't great, but they were, they should have gotten him some more help. That's true, but they were also very capable of beating that San Antonio team. That San Antonio team wasn't anything special, if you want to be honest. Like that San Antonio team wasn't the one that they played in Miami with Kawhi and it wasn't that San Antonio team.
Right.
And having the best player on the planet at the time with some guys who are really good players, you should have been in that series, and they got blown off the floor. That's on LeBron, just because being the best player on the team, like it's your responsibility to connect the dots on the court and to push the other players. That he didn't do that, and just because they weren't good players to start with, he didn't make them better. It wasn't just about him getting assists and throwing the ball to them when they're open. It's about pushing them in practice and making them have that, and having that fear factor that they talked about MJ having tonight. I think LeBron has that now, and he had that in Miami, and then he had that in Cleveland the second time, and that's why they won. And I think he's going to win a couple more in LA, and I don't think people are taking that into account when they have discussion about LeBron. I feel like he's going to win at least 2 more in LA. So I don't know. I kind of almost have to cut his career in half right now. I think about him as I'm gonna get mine superstar that he was at the beginning into now he's trying to become one of the greats when he went to Miami. And at the time I was upset because I was like, wow, he's going to team up with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and they're going to win all these championships easily. That's not what happened. We saw him grow up. And that's where I started to respect him more than anything is when, he started to grow up a little bit. And he came out of it and he actually went down there. And not only did he win, he went down there and took what he needed to take with him and grow. And he grew as a player and as a person. So, I don't know. So you made a good point, though.
Yeah, just bouncing off of what Jeremy said, I really feel like that Boston game on the road when the mean one that was the turning point. Yeah. That was the turning point. That was the turning point for Brown, man, in his career, becoming just like, I need to take over when I need to take over. I don't need to be passive in this moment. They need me because I'm the best player in the world. And also just knowing, like, it's not always me. But going back to what Keem was saying, asking, I remember one off season. I don't remember when it was, but he was working out, right? And the caption was like, I've been in the spotlight since I was 13. Always had the weight of the world on my shoulders. Haven't had a break. Going to all these finals, going to the Olympics, going Team USA in the summer, and then going to the finals, blah, blah, blah. And, it gets tiring sometimes. I thought about quitting a couple times, but I just love it too much. And he's like, but the thought of winning more just pushes me. You know what I'm saying? He said something like that, and I think he was like it might have been a video. I might be mixing a couple posts up, but he was just like, and whatever, and how LeBron does, and but so I think he was at that point that Jordan was at, or they said Jordan was at when he won that first 3, and he was like, I'm tired, I'm done. So, and even the second time when he was like, just tired of all the fame and attention, he was like, I'm done. I could walk away from this. Okay.
That's a good point, Rashad. And, piggybacking off of that, it's crazy because Jordan was exhausted after, winning 3 championships. And, he was famous in college, but nobody knew about Michael Jordan going into college. And, everyone knew who LeBron was at 17 or 16. And he's been judged as he was judged like Michael Jordan from that day on. And it wasn't even it wasn't his fault. Like, that was the caption, that was the bill from media. And he's been judged by that standard his entire career. If he doesn't get that standard placed on him early in his career, I think we're having a fair conversation. Not that we're having a bad conversation about LeBron. I think their perception of LeBron is a lot more positive than it is now. Just because he's not Jordan doesn't make him great. Not great. But, the point to all this is that, nobody will never be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player, maybe athlete of all time. And to me, there is no debate. And this is coming from someone who thinks LeBron is probably the best basketball player of all time. Those two things are very different to me.
We also haven't seen Kareem. Let's throw that disclaimer out there.
We have not seen Kareem. But so for me, it's definitely down to those 3. And Kobe would get some consideration just because of what he's accomplished. But, I mean, LeBron still has some more to go. Like, he's still playing really good basketball today at 35. And I really felt like the Lakers were on their way to winning a title this year. And, with another year with AD and LeBron, with the addition of some younger, more athletic pieces next year, they'll be right back in the hunt next year. So, I don't know. I think LeBron's story is too early to be written and compared next to Jordan. And I think we'll look back at a lot of things we've said about LeBron and feel bad because I don't think it's fair how he's been treated in his career just because of the comparisons to Jordan. I mean, nobody will ever be Jordan. Like, you asking somebody to be the greatest of all time in a sport before their career is over. That's not fair.
Jeremy, my old pal, when you bring up the Lakers and winning this ring, man, just imagine if my guy, Dwight Howard,
say it.
Yo,
he was already first ballot. He was already first ballot. But he's the difference. He's one of the big differences between this year's team and last year's Lakers team. Obviously, AD, top 5 player in the world, top 10 player in the world. But Dwight Howard is really, if you watch the Lakers, he's really kind of that juice, because Dwight can still play. He can still be a guy who plays for Charlotte, get 10 and 10, they go nowhere. Still be a guy who plays for Atlanta, get 10 and 10, they go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So for him to, still have the talent to get 10 and 10, but understand you need to take your role because we have AD in front of you, Joker. And for him to take that and, excel because he's better than any other, 90% of everybody else's backup power forward / center. I think he's a large reason of their success this season.
No, you're absolutely right about that. And I know I was hard on Dwight, when we used to, have those debates when he was a Hawk, but, I really applaud him for his effort to put, to invest in his body because, he looks like a completely different player when you see him on the court than he was just even the last time he played with Charlotte. So
forget just LeBron's 4th ring because that's great for LeBron's 4th ring, but to see Dwight get a ring and to contribute to it, it's not no Gary Payton Miami Heat ring, to see that.
Oh yeah,
that would have been sweetener. I mean, he was already first ballot, but this would have just been. I know it would have been amazing for him, and just that argument and everything that people have with Dwight. So yeah.
It's so amazing that that one of the things that I know that Dwight always used to put on his Twitter account, he would always say after the ring. Well, with him in LA, he may actually, he may actually get it. It's so amazing that he may, that he may finally get that. And, props to him, if/when he does, because like you said, like the way things are going in LA, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But just, so much, I'm definitely loving this basketball talk and everything. Just so much really when you think about it, like, other things that really caught my eye was, again, him drop was again, Jordan dropping, 55 in Madison Square Garden. We kind of talked about that last week, about players that, that relish that spotlight of playing in New York. Like, I feel like that if James Dolan wasn't, such, the non-owner that he is, the non-basketball executive that he is, I believe we probably would have seen LeBron as a New York Knick, which me as a native New Yorker is always going to bring a tear to my eye.
Y'all got Sabrina. Y'all got Sabrina. It's all right. Y'all got Sabrina.
True,
when Atlanta had the worst record.
Facts, man. Facts. It's things are looking up. Things are looking up. We got to get Dimitri on one of these chats just so he can rub it in our face about New York sports. probably with his Sabrina Ionescu jersey on. And also I'm glad also one of the things that they also talked about tonight was, and we brought it up a little bit earlier, and it was about it was just about the humanization of him. Because sometimes it's one of those things where we talk about like how these, about, one of the things that we heard a lot about in, episodes 5 and 6 was the fact that he had so much of it. He was talking about how he didn't have a gambling problem. He had a competition problem. But it got to a point where even that competition really started to take a lot out of him. And that was really a lot of the impetus for him even deciding to say, you know what, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of the constant pressure, the constant media attention, like all of this. Like, I need some time. And not only did he go to play baseball, he went to play minor league baseball for a minor league affiliate, ironically, of the Chicago White Sox. So he really, and yeah, it may have brought more attention to the Birmingham Barons when he played in Birmingham, but it was still one of those things where he just decided, you know what, I need to put a hard reset on my career. And I feel like that, to a very high extent, I feel like that, like you said, that was one of those moments where it really brought out a human side of him, because sometimes I feel like we all, in any walk of life, whether it's sports, journalism or anything, like I feel like any of us, we've all experienced burnout. We've all experienced, points in our lives and points in our careers where we felt like, you know what, we're experiencing burnout. Like, I need to go on a vacation to the islands. Like, I need to go camping somewhere out in Colorado or someplace like that, or in the North Georgia mountains. So I just feel like it's one of those things that really brought out a human side. And I'm glad that too was expressed, because like I said, we all experience burnout and we all need some time to just say, hit that reset button and then just come back stronger.
What are the chances that Terry Francona was the manager of that minor league baseball team?
I know. I thought that was insane. I thought that was just insane. I had no idea that was the case. And when I saw that, I was shocked. That was cool.
Yeah. And then he went, yeah, that's another thing. Like, Terry Francona of all people. And then he was, of course, the manager for the Red Sox when they came back 3-0 on the Yankees in 2004, and then broke the curse of the Bambino in 2004. Like, of all people, like I would not have. And that's another thing that, that we have talked about a lot, is that a lot of factoids that I feel like a lot of like younger fans that are just now coming up, learning sports and getting their feet wet, whether it is as a sports fan or even as, just overall like wanting to pursue a career in sports, I bet you that they probably wouldn't have guessed that the same manager that managed Michael Jordan in the 90s managed the Boston Red Sox to a championship, their first one in 86 years.
I think any young journalist should have to watch this documentary in a class so that we don't have um, these outlandish takes that come up when people don't have context of history.
Man, forget the journalists. To see the players, at the beginning of the lockdown, see these top 5 lists. You talking about Jason Tatum, Trae Young, Steve Nash in my top 5, Kevin Durant in my man.
Yeah.
What?
It's like
Come on, dog.
but you know what? That's the thing. That's what happens. Like, when you have these players, and then the thing is, it's not like those are like in their top 5. That's just who they grew up with. And I see exactly what you mean. It's the same thing that we see.
But you don't have no excuse for that,
talk
King.
about who their greats are.
That's a tired thing, because it's like I came up before the internet was the internet as it is today, right? No.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had the internet. We had the dial-up.
AOL
Nickelodeon Games,
Messenger.
Nick.com.
Shout out AOL Instant Messenger.
You know what I'm saying? AOL, we had the little dial-up Instant Messenger. We didn't have internet in my house until I was in 4th grade. I used to go to my uncle's house. He had the internet. It was a treat to get the internet and to play on Nick.com for a couple hours before I go home. So what I'm saying is, for me, I took it upon myself. The book fair comes every year. They have the greatest players ever, today's NBA superstars. That's how I learned about the game, was through the book fair. And then, the Slam magazine. Slam magazine came out with 75 greatest players of all time edition after the 50s greatest players of all time edition. And now I had these books of just the greatest players in NBA history. So I knew who George Mikan was. I knew who Bob Pettit was. I knew who, Walt Frazier. All these guys that they came up through the years in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, Pistol Pete. I knew who all those guys were just because the information was available for me through form of books, through form of magazines that I saw at the grocery store before my mom checked out, the food and everything like that. So it's like, to say that these kids don't know because they didn't grow up watching that, these kids have YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I did this without YouTube. I did this without, all this stuff without, and I darn sure just wasn't watching the ESPN Classic reruns. You know what I'm saying? Who want to watch that as a 7-year-old? I wasn't watching that.
Or the hardwood classics on NBA
because
TV.
they're available to me. You know what I'm saying? So ignorance isn't an excuse to have a messed up top 10. Because, with music, I'm a big music guy. I love to go back and listen to all the great music from generations way before me. And I'm not just talking about R&B and hip hop. Like, I go to rock and roll, I go to country, I go to like anything music wise. I go back and listen because I want to know where these sounds we have today came from.
Rest in peace, Little Richard.
Rest in peace. Yeah. I mean, and it's not for me to expect everybody to do that, but also when you want to have a music conversation, how can you have a conversation about music if you've never learned the history of what has come to be? Same what Rashad was just saying. Like, you can't build a debate about the greatest of all time if you've only seen 200 players play.
And the craziest part about that conversation, that debate, Jeremy, the same jokers that will say that, right? I ain't grow up seeing. These are players I knew. Nash 2005. You telling me the first time you started paying attention to basketball 2005 and you trying to have an all-time discussion? Get out of my face. Anyways, the same players that say that be the same players that criticize the media for criticizing them because the media didn't make it to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Make it make sense for me, King.
I mean, it's. I see exactly, man, where you're coming from. Like, it's, so it's like, sometimes it's just one of those things where, people have these, like you said, people have these top 10 lists, and they can just be skewed, like, based on who their favorite players are. But I see exactly, like you said, I see exactly what it is that you mean. I mean, it definitely is important to learn, about one's history and everything like that, and learn sports history, especially if it's one of those things where, you're coming up and trying to, make your mark in the business, like, and like you said, like, it's the same thing when we talk about, like, music. I mean, as I was saying earlier, rest in peace, Little Richard. None of that, rest in peace, Betty Wright. So it's one of those issues where learning about, just learning about history is just, so important, whether that be music or whether that be sports. Like I know I'm the same as you, Jeremy. Like one of the things I remember one of the reasons as to why I'm so much, why I call myself so musically inclined is because sometimes it'd be one of those issues where my mom used to take me on car rides in the car when I was living in Houston, Texas, and we was listening to the classics from the 60s and the 70s. Like I was raised on the old school. So that, just knowing that, is just so important. And I feel like I said, as a 30-year-old old head now, I just think like it's one of those things where it's just I'm glad that I got that knowledge, and I'm keeping it with me today, and it's always going to be with me.
If I get the honor to, have children, I'm definitely gotta raise them on old school, man. At least give them knowledge. I think my parents did a good job. I had older parents, and they weren't like too older, but they had me when they were in their 30s. So it's like to have that. I feel like I have a lot of advantages that a lot of my peers, who were raised by younger parents, just don't have. In all facets, not just sports, but music, like y'all said, and it's always good to have that background to know what you're talking about. Another thing, I was talking to my boy this week, and I've dropped this in the group message, as y'all know, and he was telling me how he rather listen to Lil Baby than Jay-Z, and Lil Baby's better rapper than Jay-Z, and he feels like all this arrogance from Jeremy just left, if y'all didn't know, and all this arrogance has come from like the New York, and someone said a long time ago that these set of rappers were the greatest rappers, and people just fall in line with the list, and they fall in line with it. And their excuse was, I'm 27 and I'm from Atlanta. We not listening to Jay-Z. We listening to Lil Baby. I'm like,
no,
dude, I'm younger than you from Atlanta. And cause I was just telling him, he sent me this Lil Baby song. He said, this Lil Baby song is one of the greatest songs ever. And I was like, all right, okay, before I click on the song now, I just want you to know I just listened to the Keys of Life by by Stevie Wonder. And he was like, dude, I promise you, man, and it was a pretty good song, but like Lil Baby's voice, I have a hard time getting over that. And just you talk about the musicality and Keys of Life, man. I was like, I broke down a couple times listening to that thing because it's just a masterpiece. The musicality, and it's just another level. It's just something that only a few musicians today can even compare or even try to make. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe somebody actually used that as an excuse, because I grew up listening to R&B. I didn't even listen to hip hop and rap until I was probably in middle school or high school, and that was just to get hype, play football. Like I really didn't study hip hop and listen to hip hop like that until maybe college. Mm. And I'd heard Jay-Z and liked Jay-Z's music and knew that he was a great rapper even then. And I was comparing his music to Keith Sweat, the Isley Brothers, and all those R&B like sounds. And I heard Jay-Z's music, and I was like, "Oh man, this man's legit." So that's ridiculous. Second of all, I always find I feel like the grumpy old man when I hear a song, and I'm just like, "Oh, they got this from such and such back in 1977. I wasn't even alive back then, but like I can hear something in a song and go and like pull that up and say, "Oh, that's from this song." Blah blah.
Question, test for you, Jeremy. Test for you, Jeremy. What was Say So inspired by? Because that's got the the 70s feel to it.
Say So. What is that?
Doja Cat.
Say So. I haven't heard that.
Don't need to know it. Don't need to roll it. You want to send a know it. You want to say so.
Let me hear it. I'm gonna play it right quick.
Okay. All right.
That's got a disco. It's got a disco vibe to it, like you said. But I see exactly what it is that you're coming from. And then on top of everything else, you got to consider this. The fact that anybody could say, "Oh, Lil Baby is a better rapper than Jay-Z." First of all, here another thing that I just don't get is the dominance of Atlanta hip hop and how Atlanta has become basically the hub of hip hop culture, the reason for that, or big reason for that, is because of the decline of hip hop in New York. Because basically what happened is you have basically the Atlanta music scene basically decided, you know what, we want to be the new New York.
Right,
Because
right, for
Atlanta
sure, for
wouldn't be
sure.
where it is without New York paving the way.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
exactly. So to say that, to make that kind of an argument, like that person was saying in the group chat, it just makes me think like, wait a minute, like, do you not know one of the reasons why Atlanta hip hop is so dominant is because New York hip hop was so dominant in the 90s?
You're right. They paved the way, but I mean, my thing, I wasn't even the biggest Jay-Z fan coming up because, I didn't really listen to much rap music as a kid. When I started listening to rap music and digging back, I still wasn't that big of a fan of Jay-Z, especially around the time of 2012. He dropped Magna Carta. Great
Mm.
production. Wasn't saying Jack-ish the whole album. He wasn't saying anything. It was just like, I got money. I'm married to Beyonce. I'm so rich. Ha ha. Like that was the whole album. So I hated Magna Carta. And then he had that whole Illuminati devil thing where, he allegedly had the messages hidden in his songs and stuff. And even in Empire State of Mind, where he said, Jesus Christ can't save you, life began when the church in. I had that whole thing against Jay-Z for a couple of years. And, the Paris video, all the YouTube conspiracies about Jay-Z, I pretty much.
Oh, yeah. It's all over the place.
But 444 was an album that made me turn it around for him because 444 was so good, so wise. He was actually saying stuff in it. And, that really changed my opinion about Jay-Z. For him to be past his prime at such an old age and to adjust to his old age, that's something that nobody else in hip hop has been able to do. So
really good point, Rashad. That's why I don't like a lot of these.
My respect for him.
That's a good point. Like, as you age, you gotta age. Your art has to age with you. So that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Update on the Doja Cat song. If it's not Another One Bites the Dust, I have no idea what it is. I have no idea, but I've definitely heard that song before.
Then you need to know it. You got to get the rolling. I didn't know it. Why don't you say so? I can't sing it too much because, I might get copyrighted for sounding just like the record.
I feel like that song is slick a guilty pleasure. Like, I feel like it's...
No, it's a great song. It's no guilt in for me. I enjoy the song.
Me neither. I like it too.
It's just a good song. Doja Cat makes amazing music, man.
But I feel like it's one of those things, like, Say So Doja Cat reminds me of, when I say guilty pleasure, like, it reminds me a lot of Carly Rae's Call Me Maybe. Like, a lot of dudes, if they with their homeboys, aren't going to admit that they like the song, but trust me, they like that song.
But she's just a good artist, man, for her.
True.
Got a lot of different styles of music.
Yeah, I've always been big on Doja. Since after the cow thing, the mood thing. I didn't really check out her last album, but ever since then, like from the Tia Tamara up, I've just been all in on Doja, and she's super talented. It's crazy. I think it takes a special type of person to get ridiculed and canceled the way she was. There we go, back to the cancel thing. She was canceled. People want to ignore that now because she has a hit record, but you guys canceled her last year. That's something you did. For her to bounce back from being canceled and to be on top right now. I'm just happy for her. And make sure you guys stream.
It's crazy because me and you had this conversation about her not too long ago. I can't remember when it was, when I first kind of got onto her, and you were high on her then. So
yeah, that Tia Tamara record was going heavy because and then she had the Juicy after that, which was another hit, and she was mostly rapping in that. And then I heard the album, and the album goes like kind of punk rock, funk, soul, rock, R&B, hip hop. And like she's not just doing it, she's doing it well, like all these genres well. And it kind of all made sense in the album, in the same project, which is like extremely difficult to do. So, and then she comes up with this snippet, and she releases these snippets on Instagram Live on a normal basis, on a regular basis, and they're all really good songs. And it's like, dude, like how is this much talent in one person? And I feel like not enough people talk about it, to be honest, because she came out with the Mood song.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's something that I think that it's one of those things that, it's not often that, because, we hear artists that may be talented at one thing, or we may hear artists that are talented at one genre, but it's very rare that, that we hear artists that are so, like you said, multi-talented and really multifaceted. And I feel like that's definitely something that, when we do hear artists that put out, all sorts of different sounds and put out all sorts of different styles, I feel like that's definitely something that is, that I feel like is somewhat of a lost art. But I feel like that when it does come out like that, I feel like it's one of those things where, we should just appreciate it. Absolutely, for sure. Absolutely what it is. So yeah, that is definitely what that is. Oh, by the way, just to kind of, switch gears for a little bit before we get out of here, because I know we've been
Hold on. I figured it out. Good time.
No problem.
It's gonna good time.
Always got that beat.
Yeah. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, that's the same beat.
That's the same. I didn't even think that.
You can't play it because we're gonna get copyrighted. But yeah, you got to stop it because we're gonna get copyrighted. But
I didn't even think about that.
But yeah, that's the same tempo. That's the same BPM. They need to know. That's a good catch. Okay, I hear you, Jeremy. Hey,
I wouldn't even think about that, but hey, I mean, Jeremy's more musically inclined than even yours truly. But then again, like I said, that's because, like I said, he grew up on the classics and everything like that.
I had some help. I'm not gonna lie. I had some help. I went and looked, and then I heard it. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. So I can't take all the credit.
So you definitely have to pay him because that song is like huge now. Anytime you get that big, like you gotta pay the people before they sue you, like Marvin Gaye's family.
Oh yeah, like what they like what happened with Robin Thicke
and Ed Sheeran.
Oh, Marvin Gaye's family sued Ed Sheeran?
Yeah, for thinking out loud.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think I did see that. I completely forgot that. I knew they sued Robin Thicke for Blurred Lines, but I forgot about the whole thinking out loud stuff.
Yeah, and it's crazy how that song was so big, but I had no idea that it was the same. Let's get it on. I had no idea it's the same melody, same until they brought it up.
Wow. I had no idea. I learned something new. I definitely learned something new, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely, I've definitely learned a lot. Like I learned a lot about, those 2 episodes they air. I learned a lot about music, and which I'm always inclined to learn more of because I'm trying to be more musically inclined, especially now since I ain't got much else to do. And Jeremy, I meant to ask you this. I dropped it just like I dropped the Chris Paul thing at the end of the last episode. I wanted to ask you this: since you're our Falcons expert or one of our Falcons experts, what you think of a schedule?
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna have a good year. I mean, I think the last time they had a schedule with this stuff was 2016. You know how that season ended. So
I could really see them going 10-6. I could see 10-6.
I agree with you. I see 10-6 or 11-5. Honestly, they're more built for the playoffs than they have been in the past. So I feel like they get into the playoffs, they're the team to beat. If they can make it. If they can make it to the playoffs, they have the right amount of experience in the playoffs now. They have a running game now. They have a defense that can go get the quarterback now. And they have speed. That's how you win the playoffs. And I feel like Dan Quinn is coached enough in the playoffs, game planned enough in the playoffs they just got to get there. If they can get there, they got a shot. So,
well, I feel like that they will get there because I think that I would not be surprised if they got in 10-6 and they got in a wild card because this may be somewhat of a hot take, but I think that Atlanta gets in with one of the two wild cards and Tampa misses the playoffs.
I would agree with you. I don't think Tampa's very good. I don't think you mask your weaknesses by getting Tom Brady. I mean, we're not going to sit here and act like Tom Brady's going to is going to single-handedly take a team that was 7-9 to 12-4. 12-4. That's just not who he is anymore.
Right.
I know he has weapons, but he don't play defense. So I don't know who their corners are. I don't know who I know they have. I can't remember his name right now, but they had the guy who had all the sacks last year. But I'm just not impressed. I'm not afraid of them. If I were anybody in the NFC, I wouldn't be afraid of them. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Tom Brady's going to get exposed a little bit just because we saw what he looks like when things aren't going great. So I don't even know who their running back is. So
I mean,
exactly.
His last throw as a Patriot was a pick six, so. Mm-hmm. And then Gronk didn't look that good his last season either in New England. So I don't think, he's just going to take a couple of years off and all of a sudden become good again. So, I mean, like what Jeremy said, when your two biggest guys, I don't get why you would give up on Jameis altogether for Tom Brady. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, and I like Chris Godwin, but I feel like he's one of the more overrated players in the NFL. Like, just watching him play, I don't see a top 5 receiver. I just don't. Like, I don't see him as a really great. He's okay.
Fantasy numbers.
Yeah, I mean, he puts up good fantasy numbers, but everybody in Tampa Bay's offense put up good fantasy numbers last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They can't. None of those guys, none of the guys we just mentioned can play defense. So, and to win in the NFL, you got to be able to stop people.
Exactly. That is so true. We see that, time and time again. We see that year after year after year. Like, we even talked about this in previous episodes. Like, the flashy numbers, the flashy passing stats may be the thing that gets you a lot of the headlines in the regular season. But when it comes down to it, is two things that get you championships: is running the ball, and it's defense. That's what gets it done in the postseason. That's what gets it done in that cold weather in January.
Yeah. Unless you're Kansas City, but even they went out and invested in trying to mash. They have the best quarterback on the planet, and they drafted a running back in the first round.
Right.
Tells you all you need to know. You got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to stop people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So. And that's what, like you said, that's exactly what Kansas City is. That's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what any team that's trying to win a championship. That's what anybody I feel like ought to be on that tip. So I ain't buying, like you said, I'm not buying the hype around Tampa Bay, and I really do believe that. I wouldn't be surprised really if Tampa even finished 8-8 this year, and we saw an Atlanta Falcons team that I think has a chance to finish 10-6, like you said, maybe even 11-5, and gets one of those 2 wild card spots or whatever they got going on with the playoffs and changing the wild card structure and everything.
I love how the Falcons are underrated. I like how they're going under the radar. They're better when no one's thinking about them, no one's talking about them. They don't have a lot of primetime games. It's the same formula they had in 2016. I mean, yeah. I'm telling you, it's the team, when you look at it on paper, looks a lot like that team in 2016. So we shall see.
We shall see indeed. And we shall see indeed. And we shall see next week indeed, when we record another episode, when we, look back at the last 2 episodes of this Jordan documentary, and really just, kind of just putting everything all in together, because we've actually recorded, I think, for about over an hour now. So, but you know what? Sometimes it's better that way because more of this is always a good thing. So, so that's another episode in the books, and I believe that when those episodes are in the books, I believe that's our cue to do our sign-offs because it is kind of getting a little bit on the late end of the spectrum. So, yeah.
RashadMilling.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Luka_Doncic_77.
Jeremy Johnson, Clark_Kent_75. You.
Akeem Balaam, AKIEM BAILUM. Twitter, Grand Beyond the W. As always, check it out. See you later. Till next time.
Y'all must thought that I was gonna whisper the whole time.
Mistress, diamonds they wear like go fishing. Y'all don't want friends, I want Audis. I don't want cars, I want Rarries. I don't want friends.